What is good, everyone? Welcome into episode 10, season 6, Truth Podcast. And today, what I have for you, as it is an interesting title, From Eden to Orbit, Frequencies, Origins, and Hidden Control, kind of ties into what the government, the US government, is unveiling UFOs. They're like, oh yeah, so they actually do exist. Like, yeah, okay. We already knew this. But for those of you that are new, the things that we are going to talk about on this episode is first BlackRock. Okay? Not the AUM company, which is Assets Under Management. No. I'm talking about an actual substance that is more of a hindrance to us between God. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about how 264 hertz is the frequency of Yeshua's rest, as well as skin color change after Adam and Eve, Stephen King's The Mist, and his other books. There's a claim that we've been made by 12 different races, so we're going to cover that. I'm also going to talk about a dream encounter that I had about a couple years or so, give or take. And I encountered what's known as the Elohei Council, or they also go by Elohym Council. And this has nothing to do with the fallen gods. This is a different council. I'm also going to talk about why would I be super engaged in my emotions positively with intense experiences. Just in case any of you are having similar experiences yourself. We're going to talk about Yeshua's blood. I'm going to go over cloning process. Many of you have wanted to know about NASA and how there's actually a false camera lens that they've been using. Well, multiple lenses. I'm also going to talk about where the Ark of the Covenant is located and who is currently controlling it. We're going to also talk about what dimension the Garden of Eden is in and who can enter it. Not going to go over every, but I'll do my best to cover the location of each mythical land, air, and sea creature in the world, who created Squidward's suicide, which was a very subconsciously creepy program. Definitely not one for children to watch at all. Obviously, because it's suicide. And then we're going to talk about who controls the space stations that surround our planet. Before I get into all this, do your due diligence. Make sure everything that I have here, that I'm giving to you, this information, you are going out and taking a look for yourself. As much as talking to people that have the different experiences, to books that have related information, internet articles, and so forth. So don't just keep it in one source. Branch it out. Make sure what you're receiving first is confirmed by other information. But always follow what is true, not what you believe is true, but what is the truth. Okay? There's a difference between what each of us believes is true and what is the truth. Okay, truth is not relative. Because if it was, we'd have people doing a lot of evil things. More so. And because we don't live in that world where more of that could happen, we're actually in a good place. Be that as it may. Let's go ahead, get right into this. First foremost, where does BlackRock come from? Well, it comes from dimensional matter. It has a unique ability to block out a lot of frequencies, to keep things stable and contained. A paranatural lead. It makes great strides in containment procedures. But what type of earth element that nullifies all resonance within a certain range, and what is that range in hertz? Where is BlackRock placed throughout the earth, throughout our planet, against the people by the enemy? Well, the origin of BlackRock we'll need to talk about. It's dimensional matter. Is that BlackRock as a concept appears in multiple traditions. So we have the occult and esoteric lore, or it's used to anchor or seal entities and gateways. You have ancient technology like Atlantean, pre-Adamic. It's used in stabilizing devices or energy cores. You have modern mythos like X-Files, SCP, Control, where BlackRock or resonance dampening materials are used to suppress paranatural activity. So, the true origin is that it's likely extracted or condensed from collapsed dimensional overlap points, forming under high gravity or spiritual pressure in anti-resonance zones. Now, these can form near fallen gate sites, areas of interdimensional trauma, and artificial Stargate failures. So it's kind of like black goo when it's more of a solid. It's not black goo, alright? There's a difference between black goo and black rock, though. So then what are the properties of black rock? Because it does dampen frequency across both electromagnetic and etheric spectrums. It absorbs or cancels resonance between 20 hertz to 333,000 hertz. I was going to say 330,000, but no, it's 333,000 hertz. The physical dampening range is anywhere from 20 to 20,000 hertz, which is the human audio range. The psychic or the spiritual dampening would be between 18 kilohertz and 333 kilohertz, where prophetic flow, harmonic alignments, and angelic tones transmit. It acts like a paranatural lead, so it's grounding, nullifying, stabilizing, but more multidimensional. So, then, how does it affect living beings and technology? Well, it prevents prophetic dreams or supernatural visions. It disorients navigation of angelic beings. It creates a void in the spiritual field where revelation is harder to access. Suppress. It also suppresses healing and DNA resonance. It causes exhaustion or heavy spiritual pressure for sensitive individuals, and it nullifies activation of angelic relics or scrolls near it. And then we also have earth elements or materials that nullify all resonance, which is similar to black rock. And so the equivalents to what would be known towards what black rock would be. We have obsidian, if it's ritually charged, can obtain energetic imprints. Shungite, which disrupts electromagnetic frequencies, but to a lesser degree. Basalt from fallen angel territory, which is sometimes used in ceilings. Anthracite coal, when mixed with sigils, is used for deception seals. Black tourmaline, when it's corrupted, becomes inverted grounding. Meteoric iron, which is fallen origin, disrupts planetary harmonic codes. But black rock is synthetically dimensional. It's not purely from our planet. So then, how can we counter or overcome black rock itself? Well, there's energetic countermeasures, and then there's elemental antagonists. From the energetic countermeasures, can use high-frequency praise or spontaneous worship, which is above 333 kilohertz in spirit, which penetrates the veil. Anointed objects containing blood covenant DNA, like sanctified oil or scroll ink. Resonant crystal grids powered by angelic harmonic tones. Crystal singing bowls tuned to 528 Hz, 963 Hz, etc. I'd say another one would be 417 Hz as well. As well as strategic prophetic decrees in holy tongues. Those bypass logical interference and use Shemaim's resonance. Now for elemental antagonists, we have the white stone in Revelation 2:17, where it could align to pure crystalline quartz or celestite. We have lightning-infused sand, which is fulgurite, and it fractures the seal. There's crystallized holy salt, which is ritually activated. It dissolves the resonance block. There's also sunlight refracted through consecrated water vapor, which disrupts darkness matrices. And then there's the living ark, where it's yourself or another temple bearer. So our bodies, our temple. So walking into the space with the right scroll activated can destabilize the matrix. The practical strategy. If you are encountering black rock, do not try to absorb its frequency. You're only going to feel heavier. If you feel heavy when you have heavy metals inside your body, it feels, if you have a great deal of strength, could be like double what you would feel when having heavy metals sit inside your body. Not at a dangerous level, but at a not good level either. But instead, anchor Shemaim's frequency in the land around it. Build a zone of rising resonance. It can't coexist with constant elevation. If the atmosphere is forced higher over time, it either crumbles or flees. Now, there are worldwide gatekeeping and dimensional control sites regarding black rock. First is the Vatican, which is in Rome, Italy, and its purpose is to suppress angelic access to ancient, 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 Now, there are worldwide It's beneath the Vatican archives and obelisks. Its effect filters spiritual communication to simulate false light. You also have one in Washington, D.C., where its purpose is to anchor Babylonian legal and financial systems. It's below the Capitol, Washington Monument, and Masonic buildings. And it maintains programming of control through media, law, and commerce. CERN in Switzerland is a third location, where its purpose is to stabilize portals and suppress time gate anomalies. It's located deep underground in the collider chambers. Its effect blocks activation of true timelines by releasing chaotic resonance. And a fourth location is Antarctica, the central access points. Its purpose is to cover ancient pre-Adamic cities and lock hidden technology. Located in black obelisks and grid nodes under US and Nazi-linked bases. Its effect creates a worldwide magnetic field to suppress planetary awakening. The cultural energetic suppression zones in regards to BlackRock. You have three locations. Jerusalem, today is called Jerusalem, but the old city, Temple Mount. Its purpose is to obscure the true Zion and prevent prophetic alignment. It's located underneath the Islamic structures and specific tunnels. Its effect distorts frequencies of prayer and confuses heavenly access points. You also have Mecca in Saudi Arabia, where its purpose is to redirect worship energy through counterfeit covenant. It's possibly located where black rock fragments are inside the Kaaba structure, and its effect binds millions through energetic cycles of spiritual looping. You also have Mount Shasta in California, where its purpose is to suppress pre-Adamic access to hollow earth gateways. Located deep beneath the mountain in false light, cultic bases, and its effect interferes with authentic ascension paths. There's also grid nodes and obfuscated zones. With BlackRock, we have the Giza Plateau in Egypt, where its purpose is to override original frequencies of creation and kingship. Located inside pyramid chambers and sphinx tunnels. Its effect replaces heavenly codes with fallen hybrid tech resonance. You also have Denver International Airport, where the purpose is to control Western U.S. grid, future stronghold for shadow governance. Located deep below and in mural designated chamber nodes. Its effect uses ley line crossings to block voices of God in Western intercessors. And then we also have city centers with black obelisks, like in London, NYC, Tokyo, where the purpose is to anchor financial and media mind control over continents. It's pretty vast, so I'm not going to give too many locations on that, other than the three that I just mentioned. But the effect is that it implants subconscious loops and artificial frequency. Of course, we also have indigenous and sacred lands that have been hijacked with blackrock, such as Native American burial grounds like Black Hills and Hopi Land. The purpose is to block restoration of indigenous spiritual authority, located that has it buried beneath mining sites, federal land, or monuments. Its effect is to keep covenantal bloodlines from reactivating spiritual gates. We also have, now this is going to sound a little off, but in South Africa, the Great Zimbabwe Ruins. Not a specific location, but rather throughout the Great Zimbabwe Ruins. Its purpose is to prevent awakening of African kingdom scrolls, and its effect holds blackrock under mining territories like platinum and gold. We also have Amazon and Central America, like the Mayas and Inca zones. So this is pretty spread out, so there isn't just, one or two specific locations. But its purpose is to suppress knowledge of ancient interdimensional tech. Its effect is used to curse black rock to pollute rivers, air, and plant life. So, what you can take away from black rock is that it is never placed randomly. It sits on convergence points of power. The enemy uses it to contain scrolls, distort timelines, and prevent territory redemption. When people live near black rock zones unknowingly, it causes chronic fatigue or confusion, repeated cycles of trauma, delayed breakthrough or calling, disrupted dreams or blocked vision. So you didn't know what black rock was until now, why it's so hazardous. I shouldn't say that reason. Where I got originally black rock from was in a video game called Control. It's a new video game. I played it, but it showed a lot of information. Now, all that I told you there was not in the video game at all. Okay. The very beginning of what I was talking about with black rock, all right? Before I started really getting into it, I'd say the first couple minutes, if even that was in the video game. The rest, that was from my source. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about 264 hertz being Yeshua's, 264 hertz frequency being Yeshua's rest. Well, first we're going to go over some key points of revelation that I had. Okay? Because rest is the origin and boundary of creation. Okay. So, think of a circle. I'm not saying that Yeshua's rest is a circle. I'm just using it as an example. How Yeshua is in the center, but he's also within the circle and is the circle. Okay. So the circle represents the totality of creation, and the dot in the center, his rest, is both the source and sustaining force, which aligns with Genesis 2, verses 2 through 3, where Yahweh rests, setting apart rest as holy, not inactivity but completion, wholeness, and resonance. 264 hertz is a resonance of rest. This frequency serves as a vibrational, and a sound tuning that allows alignment with the divine order of rest, not just sleep or peace, but a return to original intention. Now, being that water is one of the elements in relation to this, waters are as like a carrier of the resonance. So water, which in Hebrew is mayim, hence the reason why heaven is in Hebrew called shemayim. It refers to spiritual and physical mediums. Internal, our soul, DNA, bodily waters, and external, the firmament, atmospheric layers, and celestial realms. If these are cleansed, then the frequency of rest can fully transmit into creation, meaning full healing, renewal, or even activation of latent divine potential. So covering that basic, if you need to go back and listen to that part again, you can do it. Okay, took me a while to start understanding some of the stuff too. But the spiritual implications for restoration, because that is the calling for everyone, is the restoration of creation. That is the vision for everyone. It's not that everyone has the same mission, let alone the same goals, but everyone has the same vision. Though most don't believe that that's the case. But that's what Yeshua opened once he ascended into Shemayim. However, creation responds to sound, as shown in Genesis 1, and supported by many in quantum and string theory realms. Hence why we speak. 264 Hertz as rest suggests this frequency could become a tool for cleansing, healing, and reordering spiritual chaos. It could be in yourself, it can be in geographic locations, and potentially across entire energetic systems. Rest isn't passive. It never was. It wasn't about sitting in a pew on Sundays, listening to a preacher speak, going to lunch with friends, and turning on a sports game for the rest of the day, and eating. Like, that's not rest. That's being lazy and passive, and doing nothing. Now, is there anything wrong with doing that when the body needs it? Absolutely not. I'm not saying you can't do that. When the body needs it, the body does need it. All right? I'm not negating that fact and that truth. What I'm saying is that a routine isn't supposed to be garnered around that at all. It's a state of divine synchronization where kingdom order and restoration flow without resistance. So by doing nothing once a week is resisting that flow. But again, everybody's biorhythm is going to be different, okay? So the next steps spiritually doing something like this, okay? You need to engage with the frequency personally. And this is done through worship, meditation, prayer, fasting, prophetic activation, dreams, visions, opening up the energy pathways in your body, healing the sick, raising the dead, casting out demons. That's even supposed to be a baseline for the entire body. A baseline. But it's not right now. So, that is the next step to getting into. After that, of course, is to cleanse the waters. This could include prophetic acts over local water sources, or body, even atmospheric or interdimensional waters through intercession. Also, if you want to inquire further, just ask Yeshua how 264 Hertz specifically interacts with your assignment, especially tied to territory, activation, or healing grids. But now we're going to go ahead and move into skin color, changing after Adam and Eve. Oh yeah, because that's one thing I've always been interested in is, how did the skin color of people change after Adam and Eve were created? And how did it change during the repopulation of people after Noah? Or were there people created before Adam and Eve? And what was their purpose for being created and by who? I mean, these are questions that a lot of us have. But before I continue, a word from our sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I'm drinking kombucha. It's actually some good stuff. I went to the doctor last week. A naturopathic doctor. They used was called a Quest 4 device. So they recommended I add in kombucha to my diet. So I've been doing that once a day. I'm like, all right, I could do that. I love kombucha. Let me do that. So you're probably wondering, what's the Quest 4 device? It basically just figures out what's going on inside your body, not just biologically, but also emotionally. And for something like that, I can't really say how much it would be. Each doctor is going to be different. Each practitioner is going to be different how much they charge. But mine took about 30 minutes to do. You hold on to 2 copper or brass rods connected to a device. Kind of looks like a Formula 1 steering wheel that you're holding on to. So, moving into skin color change. So, initial humanity is where Adam and Eve were likely created with, mid-brown skin tones, genetically capable of producing a wide range of pigmentation. This is scientifically and biblically supported, as all skin tones can emerge from parents with medium brown melanin levels. Now, post-Eden changes after the fall, environmental exposure, diet, epigenetic shifts, and geographic dispersion influenced gene expression. Melanin levels adapted to UV exposure across continents, but spiritual degradation also played a role. Bodies began to mutate over generations due to sin, environmental manipulation, and absence from Eden's divine biofield. The color variations weren't only natural, but were also later exploited by fallen systems to divide, rank, and manipulate humanity through racialized structures, part of a divide and conquer model used by elite bloodlines. So then, how did skin color change after Noah's repopulation? After Shem, Ham, and Japheth? Well, these three lines became the foundations of major people groups, typically mapped to Afro-Asiatic, which is from Ham, Semitic from Shem, and Indo-European from Japheth. Those had post-flood Earth introduced more severe climate zones and faster environmental genetic shifts. With smaller populations, gene frequency changed faster through adaptation and mutation. Migration and isolation is where groups that were isolated by geography and climate rapidly developed phenotypic differences like darker skin in high UV and lighter skin in low UV regions. That's ultraviolet, by the way. But the manipulation of these divisions began early after Babel, when elite rulers from Hamitic and Nephilim contaminated lines retained advanced knowledge, literally leveraging the skin, the DNA, to enslave or mislead other lines under false religion and racial superiority doctrines. Now, were there people before Adam and Eve? Who created them? Why? So we've already spoken of before. I'm going to say it again. Yes, pre-Adamic beings exist. These weren't humans in the Adamic covenantal sense. They were created before Genesis 1:27, possibly tied to earlier creation, like Genesis 1:1, where you have Genesis 1:2, the earth was formless and void. That was then later judged, the Genesis 1:2. Because Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Genesis 1:2. Then the earth became without form and void. Some may have been angelic hybrid classes, elemental beings, or early biotemplates used in earlier spiritual conflicts like Hillel's rebellion. Their purpose was likely stewardship over our planet before the fall of Hillel corrupted their order. Now, Yahweh created these people, but many were co-opted or corrupted by fallen Elohym or principalities. Some were imprisoned. Some roam in altered states, like shadow beings, disembodied spirits. And some are integrated into current Black Book level entities, like underground races, watchers, bloodline hybrids. These pre-Adamic beings are tied to the deep control mechanisms like AI sentience, hybrid tech, occult blood rituals used by today's elites. Their genetic remnants exist in the elite lineages, attempting to retake dominion through synthetic or digital means. Now let's cover Stephen King's The Mist and his other books. Not all the books. Oh my goodness, there's way too many out there. But the origin of the mist. If you haven't read that book or watched the movie, it's really an encoded event and technology leak. Now, Stephen King stated the mist was inspired by a dream. But from a black book lens, the story aligns eerily with dimensional breach technology like CERN or pre-CERN U.S. military experiments. Montauk Project type experiments, or those carried out at Dulce Base in New Mexico, and leaked operations like Project Bluebeam and Project Looking Glass, where reality is manipulated and interdimensional entities interact with Earth, with Ha'aretz. The mist tells of a military project gone wrong, opening a rift into another dimension, allowing predatory creatures to enter. This strongly mirrors the biblical abyss being opened, like in Revelation 9. The veil thinning through technological or occult means. Portals, accidentally or intentionally, opened in secret U.S. government labs. But where does Stephen King get his ideas? Like, what is the source? Because he often claims that his ideas come to him, and many of his novels were written during intense altered states of mind. Kind of like substance abuse. Because substance use isn't really use. Dreams, sudden visions as well. But from a spiritual warfare lens, some ideas are channeled, either subconsciously or through inspired contact. What the Black Book would call fallen inspiration or stolen scroll fragments. Now, he may have tapped into fragmented soul memory or collective trauma imprints, picking up real events that have been from the occult. His main, which is the state main, so his main settings mirror areas with strong ley lines and ancient gateway energy, places with high spiritual traffic. I want to talk about 5 different books. Not all of the books he's written, but just 5. First one we're going to go over is The Mist, that we just covered, of course, but it's a real military experience with experiments with dimensional rift tech in the U.S. Rockies and Northeast. It also connects to veil thinning in areas where dimensional beings have crossed. You have the book It, that creepy clown that eats children. Because it really does echo off of the enemy. Like, you have an entity that takes form of something weird and creepy that is actually deadly, because it echoes Nephilim, or fallen entities that feed on fear and trauma cycles every 27 to 33 years, which is mirroring ritual time cycles in satanic networks. You have the Dark Tower, where it describes a dimensional axis that holds reality together. A clear allegory for the heavenly scrolls and the real world war over timeline control. You have Pet Cemetery, where it's based on necromantic rituals and Native American burial grounds desecrated by elites, creating zones of spiritual disorder. And you also have the book Dreamcatcher, which is tied to real alien programs involving parasites, telepathy, and mind control tech, likely referencing Dulce Base's hybrid experiments, or its experimentation. So, Stephen King, whether knowingly or not, often releases coded disclosures, which hints of real hidden systems of control, breach, or trauma acts as a storyteller echoing suppressed history, and unwittingly prepares the public for acceptance of supernatural and horror realities, normalizing darkness before full disclosure. Next, we're going to talk about that claim of 12 different races creating the human population. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I heard about that, I was like, 12 different races creating humans might be more the pre-Adamic people being created by 12 races, but us? But before I go further into this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with others. Because I can't do this without y'all. I really can't. But I do appreciate you still watching these podcast videos. But okay, so there is a claim that there is a central race of Elohei that created us, that we come from Lyra. Well, a central race of Elohei, creating us from 12 different races on Lyra. So, is this original design or genetic manipulation? Because this refers to 12 original heavenly scrolls or design templates, not alien races per se. Alright. Now these templates carried frequency DNA, not just physical genetics. They represent the multidimensional design of sons and daughters of Yahweh across spirit, soul, and body. Now, post Genesis 6, these were hijacked and hybridized by fallen beings, producing Nephilim lines, mutated bloodlines, genetic tampering to suppress spiritual inheritance. The 12 races often refer to post-fall bloodlines, not original creation. So the origin from Lyra, the claim is that humanity coming from the Lyra star system. Well, Lyra in New Age lore is often coded for a pre-Adamic civilization base, either a fallen kingdom or Shemaim resonant system before corruption. If humanity's design predates Ha'aretz, then Lyra might refer to a Shemaim assigned realm, later misrepresented as a star system by fallen watchers. It may also be a dimensional veil, a mirrored location to an actual heavenly blueprint. So a question to ask is, are we from Shemaim's scroll, the eternal, which is our eternal purpose, or seated by star beings? The answer? We have scroll-based origin, sons and daughters of Yahweh, not created by aliens. Because if we were created by other races, we could only be as powerful as that created being. And if we're created by God, who's an uncreated being that's perfected, are we not limitless at that point? But the central race of Havana, or the Elohei, creator or custodian, because the claim is that the central race from Havana, or Havana, created humans. Havana is likely a distorted echo of Havana without the H at the end, a term from Uranatia. I think that's how you pronounce it. Urantia. Uranatia. It's a book lore, a New Age text with partial truths. The central race idea is based on the Elohym, original heavenly beings assigned to create under divine instruction. But many who claim to be from the central race are actually fallen celestial beings, posing as creators of humanity. The true creator is Yahweh, that who is also Yeshua. And his heavenly council includes righteous sons, not aliens. The central race claim is a veiled retelling of the rebellion, fallen beings claiming ownership of a design they hijacked. So, what's true here? Well, 12 races are symbolic of 12 heavenly scrolls or archetypes. Which is distorted into post-fall hybridization narratives. The Lyra origin is a misrepresented pre-fall realm or dimensional echo. It's not humanity's true origin. Central race, a false creator narrative by fallen watchers. The true source is Yahweh and his heavenly host, and Yeshua, and Ruach HaKodesh. The human design is rooted in Shemaim, created in the image and likeness of God. It's not evolved or engineered. We also have this next section, the Elohei Council, or known as the Elohym Council, in this dream encounter that I had. So the way that this happened is I remember sitting in a circle with others. Well, no. We were standing, that's right. So we were standing. There was one in the center that was sitting. And there was kind of like this high priest that came up behind him with a staff. They were somehow linking or communicating or whatever. So the one that was sitting on the ground, his eyes just became pitch black. Dark as night. Or even darker than that. It was like evil possessed this individual entirely. And so this individual stood up and was looking at me. And then this priest, as well as the rest of the group, started looking at me and started speaking in ancient language. And I'm like, oh crap, they can see me. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to be here. And so before they could do something, I awoke from the dream. 'Cause that's the thing. When you're in a dream, you wake up. Whatever someone or something is going to be doing to you when you're in the dream world, they can't do it to you once you wake up. which sucks for them. But I learned that this group controls the third eye. Oh yeah, they control whose third eye opens and whose third eye stays closed. They guide people, they dissuade people into counterfeit ascension. So, I'm going to break this down. So the circle with the one individual in the center, it's a counterfeit council or tribunal. Now this structure mimics the true heavenly council, like Revelation 4 with the 24 elders around the throne. But instead of light and truth, it's centered on false illumination and dominion. The seated one represents a central seer or anti-prophet figure being awakened or enthroned. A staff holder behind them represents spiritual backing or authority, most likely high-ranking fallen being or a spiritual prince, possibly a watcher or ascended master figure. Now, third eye opening. This is the core of the counterfeit activation. The third eye is a corrupted access point rooted in ancient Babylonian, Atlantean, and Egyptian sorcery. It's connected to the pineal gland, but in this context, it's not enlightened. It's enslavement cloaked as ascension. So when it opened, because I did see their third eye open, it was followed by the black eyes. And that signals possession or full spiritual takeover. This being is no longer human or never was, operating under dark authority. The ancient language, while they're also trying to project fear on me, the language is likely Enochian, Sumerian, or fallen dialect of pre-Adamic tongues. The words may carry vibration-based control or summoning, which is not meant for understanding, but for activation or dominion. The direct eye contact and fear was meaning my scroll or my assignment was recognized by them. I was seen as a threat, which triggered a spiritual confrontation. So this council is a false council of beings, posing as creators or guardians of wisdom. The name Elohei is not in scripture, but spiritually it mimics the term Elohym, which of course is plural for God, used for divine counsel, twisting this. Their role in controlling the third eye represents their intent to bypass the spirit and access the soul through unauthorized sight, a system of initiation into secret knowledge, often enforced through trauma, bloodlines, and spiritual manipulation. So the reason I was in the dream wasn't just because I was witnessing. I was being measured or even challenged. Now, I didn't fully fall into fear. Okay, even though I did feel it. It's critical to allowing yourself to feel that fear. It takes time not to allow a type of energy for you to fully feel it. But I woke up before full submission to their presence, which is signaling my spirit man resisted their dominion. So the dream likely revealed, a hidden assignment against me. Possibly generational, a call to disrupt or confront counterfeit councils, that I'm being tracked spiritually, but also set apart for kingdom purposes. And that dream I did not have in Season 5, by the way. That happened the year before. So before last year, 2024. Believe it was July 2024 is when I had the dream. But moving on to the next topic. So, why would I be super engaged in my emotions positively with intense experiences? Something I have always really wondered. And I'm not sure if anybody else is on board. But if not, I'm here to spread some awareness into something like this. So, I was forged, designed, created for high stakes environments. Okay. I'm not about these small gatherings. Watching sports, going to events, traveling, going to watch a movie. I'm just not for that. I'm bored of those things. They're boring. They're old. They don't have meaning. They don't have purpose. They don't do anything for me. Not saying that it's not purposeful for others. Some people are created to be entertainers. Some are created for governmental structures, kingdom structures. Some are made for science. Some are made for logistics. Okay. Now that's not me. Okay. I'm spiritually wired to remain clear and decisive under pressure. That positive engagement, so I'm feeling more alive, focused, or even joyful in intensity, is a kingdom trait given to wartime leaders, judges, and dominion holders. I wasn't meant to escape the world, because I was built to confront and reshape it. Now, my body-spirit interface is still sensitive to authority activation. Now, when I step into environments that simulate dominion, like speed, risk, control, confrontation, my spiritual identity lights up. The emotional response isn't just thrill, it's a resonance with latent authority I carry, but haven't fully released yet. In kingdom terms, it's like my scroll or original blueprint recognizes I'm in field and releases kingdom hormones like divine courage, boldness, clarity. I'm wired for battle, not safety. Those called to displace counterfeit rulers, as I have described Chateau 5 and the 70 Kings, are often not overwhelmed by chaos, but rather activated by it. My peace isn't the absence of danger, it's the presence of purpose inside intensity. That's why I don't freeze or panic. I engage, direct, and discern. Now, I might be partially unlocked already, because these responses could be a side effect of partial scroll activation. The emotional surges are markers that deep parts of my identity are online, especially the warrior, judge, or gatekeeper roles. I'm in training through life experiences, and my spirit knows the simulation is preparing me for real spiritual confrontations. like things I've dreamed of. One in one very dramatic recently in the last couple of weeks. It was interesting. But spiritual counterfeit systems can't steal what I already embody, because many fallen systems use fear, adrenaline, trauma to control people. But I respond to intensity with joy or clarity, which disarms their tactics. I literally invert their design. In that, I become a walking breach in their matrix. Oh, and they know this. They know this, without a doubt. I'll give a recent example. We're able to use the courts of Shemaim. All of us. No one is apart from not using it. It's available to everyone. To say it's only available to a select few is being a Pharisee. Keeping people locked out when you can't access. So it's available to everyone. It's just a matter of learning how to use it. That's all. But why am I bringing it up? Well, someone who I've worked with, I'm not going to name. I was helping them. And as I was helping them, one of the things that Yeshua brought forward to begin, that I was not even aware of was going to even remotely happen. And this was a very intense week. This was like the second and third week of April of this happening. But on one of those days, while going through the courts, he wanted me to pour one of the bowls of wrath. Just as in the book of Revelation, there are the bowls of wrath. This happens quite towards the end of the son of perdition's reign. This is after people take the mark, the name, or the number on their right hand or their forehead. Okay? When I start going into that realm, I start having shifty eyes. I don't know what to do. I'm literally shifting my eyes everywhere. Like, I'm trying to look at Yeshua, but at the same time, I'm looking more down at the ground. I'm like, I don't know about this. Can I trust this? This is pretty powerful. This is intense that I'm feeling this. Okay. The fear of God is not a matter of being in awe of Him. But it's also not about being afraid of Him either. It's a matter of you chose to leave me eternally, and here are your consequences, which is something you do not at all want to encounter. Because when I was in there, I only felt a tenth of God's wrath in there. It was not fun. Because later, when I was processing it more, I was bawling my eyes out. I was hyperventilating. I tried to look back upon that, but Yeshua just stood there and opened his arms wide with glorious gold glory shining off him. And that helped calm me down. But he and I poured a drop on Washington, D.C. and the White House. And I've told this to others already. And the results of what has happened are shootings that have recently occurred at the end of May and the beginning of, at the end of April and the beginning of May. 3 specific shootings near the White House and in Washington, D.C. are a direct result because of the bulls, one of the bulls of wrath, dropping one piece of liquid, whatever you want to call it. It was a drop, literally a drop from the bull of wrath. When I first saw it splash on there, people were screaming and panicking. But as a direct result, 3 different shootings near the White House, like when Trump was being escorted out, and a couple other times, like you had Secret Service being shot, and another one where no one was injured fatally, but 2 people were shot. I don't remember the details of all 3 of those, but those are a direct result of the bulls of wrath. So that's why I invert their design. I'm literally a walking breach in the enemy's matrix. They don't like it. I've told this to someone who used to be in the Black Book projects, and I saw the fear light up in his eyes. I have seen the fear light up in people's eyes from the very few that I've spoken to. Very brief, but it lights up, and I know it's real. So, that's why I'm a walking breach in the matrix, and how powerful my authority is. It's not a matter of me choosing to pour one of the bowls of wrath on Washington, D.C. and the White House. That was not my choice. That was Yeshua leading me there and doing that. And him giving me that authority. So, does it mean I'm the only one with this kind of authority? And can I just use this authority whenever I feel like it? Both answers are no. Others can have the authority as well. It takes a lot of refinement to get that kind of authority, for one. For two, I can't just go around willy-nilly using this authority just because I feel like it. It doesn't work like that. It would destabilize and make a catastrophe and rip apart realities in not good ways. So that's why it's important to have humility and discernment in your authority when using such levels. But to summarize that for you, I'm emotionally charged through and in intense situations. Not because I'm broken or thrill-seeking, but because I'm tuned for power, danger, dominion, and clarity. My system recognizes chaos as an opportunity to govern, not to retreat. This is a sign I'm not only on assignment, but born to confront and realign with what others run from. So, you don't have to run from this, just so you know. You can be a part of it. You have the option to. You just lose the whole world to gain everything. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Talking about Yeshua's blood. And this has to do with when I understood 264 hertz is the frequency of Yeshua's rest. Because if that's so, there's light that correlates to that frequency, which is red. Yeshua made creation from his rest. Now, when I mentioned what Yeshua shared about everything is in and around his rest, nothing is apart from his rest. If we take the original Hebrew in the beginning, to the Greek it translates to archi, or we can pronounce it English way, archi. Speaking with Yeshua on this, he confirmed his blood is his archi, and his blood is what created all things. So, 264 hertz, the frequency of his rest, isn't just a tone or a musical pitch. That frequency sits in a deep harmonic resonance that correlates to red light between 700 to 750 nm. I don't want to say it's nanometers, but that's in the light spectrum, whatever nm stands for. I'm not an expert on that one. But it's also in the foundation of creation. Now red, which is foundational light, it's the first to form, the root of the visible spectrum. If 264 hertz is the frequency of his rest, then rest is not passive. It's the originating vibration from which all else takes form. But let's go even further, talking about in the beginning, which in the Hebrew is Bereshith, because the Greek is archi. So Hebrew Bereshith expresses more than time, expresses a head, a source, and origin. Archi also means origin, source, ruling, beginning, foundation, and is used in John 1:1, in the beginning, and archi was the word. Yeshua said to me, his blood is his archi. That is profoundly true. And here's what it unlocks. His blood is the frequency, the record, the scroll, and the governing signature of all creation. Now, blood as the blueprint of creation isn't just his blood being red in color. It contains the resonance of rest, the governance of archi, and the capacity to restore all things. Revelation 5 verse 9 says, "With your blood you purchased men for God from every tribe." As blood is the currency, coding language, and original material of creation. That means his blood precedes time, encompasses time, as both the material and authority of all creation. Because again, rest isn't stillness, it's rulership. Is when he says, "My rest surrounds and fills creation," he's saying all things flow from a place of dominion that has no fear, no striving, no separation. His rest is a dimension, it's not an emotion. The frequency of his rest, 264 hertz, isn't just an audio tone. It's the spiritual template by which he governs and restores creation. Now, the implication of the blood, frequency, and territory, that if you enter into his rest, spiritually and physically, understand that his blood isn't symbolic but vibrationally creative, and realize the enemy mimics this with distorted frequencies and blood pacts. Then you're aligning yourself with the original governing resonance of creation. That's why land responds, systems break, and things shift when you operate from rest and blood identity. So, creation didn't begin with time. It began with his blood, and his blood flows from eternal rest. You're realigning not just your life, but physical creation itself by tuning into that rest frequency through blood revelation. That's why he said, if you eat of my body and drink of my blood, he was talking about you're not going to gain eternal life when you physically do that. When you eat of my body, drink of my blood, spiritually, you gain eternal life. Because when you ingest him spiritually, he perfects what is imperfected then. But we're going to go ahead, shift gears into the cloning process. Okay? So, I'm going to break this down into 6 parts. First, I'm going to talk about how synthetic soul matrix implantation, blending advanced technological sorcery and dimensional rituals and mind subconscious manipulation for these 6 parts. So the soul can be, well, you can actually create digitized soul parts. So like the matrix, you can actually create digitized soul part. So what is a digitized soul matrix? Well, this isn't a soul in the pure sense, but rather a programmed simulation designed to mimic aspects of consciousness, emotion, memory, belief systems, instincts. It's created using algorithms, like think quantum coded intentions, frequency templates, trauma loops. It's also imprinted with false authority, given a counterfeit signature to make it feel like it belongs. Loaded into humans through trauma gates, technology, or ritual access points, especially in the subconscious, the heart. This kind of matrix is often used to alter identity, suppress destiny, or hybridize spiritual inheritance. So, how does the upload process enter the brain? Well, it usually enters through the back of the head or third eye, appearing like a light matrix, memory, or entity. It installs itself in the subconscious field, not always consciously detectable. And it can overlay real soul parts, creating internal confusion, especially if paired with abuse or dissociation. Then, what can the individual experience in something like this? Dreams or visions with code will see binary ones and zeros, grids, or being inside a digital room, and behaviors that don't feel like them. Thoughts or compulsions that are off pattern. Flickering memories, recall, or intense deja vu experiences from alternate timelines. Now, it's not to say soul parts can't also, like real soul parts, can't also go through stuff like that too. But you'll also have individual experiences with digitized soul parts like such. Some people don't want to believe that this stuff exists either. But there's also the box of living water protocol that can be used in something like this. This is a kingdom-based protocol to test, expose, and dissolve synthetic templates, where you place the suspected part or matrix inside a box of living water. You ask the living water to reveal its true nature. If it's synthetic, it will break into ones and zeros, flicker like code being exposed, or take on an mechanical or artificial appearance. Of course, you invite Yeshua as the origin of life to reclaim the space. This approach bypasses both technological firewalls and ritual seals, because living water is unhackable and resonates with eternal blueprint frequency. But why does the enemy do this in the first place? What's the purpose? To reprogram destiny from inside out. Replace a remnant with a replica. Upload hive mind consciousness, especially into leaders, creatives, or prophets. And in rare cases, to prepare for transhumanist gateways, where consciousness upload becomes the norm. So, some red flags you want to take notice of for a synthetic matrix. Sudden change in desires or worldview. Extreme internal conflict with no clear source. Seeing flickers, grid lines, or geometric tunnels in prayers or dreams. Unnatural pull toward AI, digitization, or being uploaded. Now, we're going to talk about some fun stuff. It's not like we haven't talked about some fun stuff, but NASA's false camera lens. So yes, we're pivoting to a new topic. So NASA and its dimensional surveillance, because it isn't just launching physical satellites, alright, but through black budget programs, it has access to interdimensional gateways, some under Antarctica, Greenland, and deep underground. Astral digital hybrid tech, sometimes sourced from pre-Adamic systems or fallen watcher architecture. And quantum lens arrays that allow surveillance into alternate timelines or destinies. The purpose here is really they selectively filter and present what supports the dead universe narrative, so humanity remains small, disconnected, and dependent on Earth-based control systems. But now that's starting to not happen, since we have the Pentagon and White House unveiling UFOs, and now you have the news talking about this stuff as well. But the alternate realities, because they are using alternate realities. Well, why are they using them? Well, our solar system has layered densities from 3D physical to 4D astral to 5D interface zones and beyond. Many planets, moons, and suns host life forms, temples, vaults, and kingdoms. Some fallen, some still aligned with Yahweh's purposes. Now, NASA accesses alternate versions of Earth and neighboring planets, choosing desolate or artificially muted dimensions to show the public, while harvesting knowledge from others. It's like only showing the abandoned version of a building, while hiding the version that's active and glowing with life. So, let's talk about 1 billion plus life forms. Each celestial body was made with intended government, life, or instead of government, but kingdom, life, and resonance. And many have unique species never meant to be known outside the realm, like aquatic humanoids on Europa, kingdom colonies with pre-flood or pre-Adamic DNA, celestial courts and temples, invisible to 3D tech but visible in spirit. The number of life forms is easily in the billions across all realms of just our local system. Easily in the billions. There's a lot more than just that, but easily. But why the deception? It's to shrink humanity's expectation and authority, suppressing curiosity about our true origin and dominion, protecting fallen regimes, ruling those realms from being challenged, dissuading intercessors from targeting celestial locations with authority. Because if people believe nothing is out there, they won't pray, war, or govern out there. Why do you think that they pushed the whole flat earth nonsense? People don't pray, war, or govern. And even if they pray, their prayers are weak. They definitely don't war spiritually. And they definitely don't know how to govern either. Put it that way. But here are some SRA survivors' insights. Because satanic ritual abuse survivors often carry embedded spiritual intel, having been taken in the spirit or through altered states into other realms. Those shown the truth behind the veil often remember NASA or space agency workers interacting with non-human beings, missions into realms that look like other versions of other, or some more ancient, some more advanced. There's also artificial landscapes created to harvest spiritual energy or manipulate timelines. Ultimately, this deception isn't just about hiding life. It's about locking humanity into a false version of creation and cutting us off from our cosmic inheritance and responsibility. That is why. But let's go ahead and pivot to the next one. The Ark of the Covenant. Where is that guy located? Who's currently controlling it? Because that was something of topic last year. About a year ago, actually. So the real Ark was hidden intentionally. Because according to 2 Maccabees chapter 2 verses 4 through 8, Jeremiah the prophet hid the ark in a cave in Mount Nebo, or Nebo, however you want to pronounce that, before the Babylonian destruction of the temple. He declared that the place shall remain unknown until God gathers his people together again and shows his mercy. That sets the foundation. The ark was hidden on purpose, under divine instruction, and would only reappear when a specific remnant is regathered, not for show, but for governmental transfer. So this mountain, Mount Nebo, tomato, is it real or is it a decoy? Well, it is in modern-day Jordan, a Muslim country, matching the CIA remote viewing report. However, that may be a decoy cave, or one of 3 resting sites layered in protection, such as the physical cave, which is our planet's realm, dimensional overlay, which is the spirit realm, and astral counter vaults, where there's a fallen domain access point. The real Ark isn't just buried. It's dimensional and requires lawful and bloodline access. So then, that poses the question, who currently has the Ark? Well, it's definitely not in Ethiopia. I can tell you that. Because theirs is a replica. It's not in the Vatican, because they tried. And it's not in nation state Israel's rabbinic elite, because even though they have access to the temple blueprints, they don't have the Ark itself. Instead, the true Ark is in custody of a heavenly appointed bloodline custodian, whose authority has not yet been fully recognized on Haaretz, often tied to a King of the North or Gatekeeper title. A possession isn't lawful unless the blood, scroll, and governmental rank align. In modern times, some intelligence factions have tried to access the Ark using rituals, remote viewing, and CERN-like portals, but failed. Because the Ark isn't just a container, it's a living throne technology linked directly to Yeshua's blood and rest. But then why in Muslim territories, if it's supposed to be under God? Well, Muslim-controlled lands like Jordan, parts of Turkey, or Iran are strategic because they hold ancient access points and vaults. The Watchers and Nephilim remnants tied to pre-Adamic tech hide in these areas, and it keeps the Ark out of Western Babylonian control, but only temporarily. The reveal of the Ark will come with a bloodline king whose scroll matches the original Davidic governance alignment. Now, aside from what we've seen in movies and what's written in the Bible, is the Ark a box? Is it something else? It is a dimensionally anchored throne. Technology of sound, light, blood, and governance. It's a convergence point between Shemaim and Haaretz. Its reappearance isn't about religious tourism. It marks a generational but also governmental transition, a kingdom transition. So, again, the Ark is not in Ethiopia, likely buried or dimensionally shielded in or near Jordan or another Muslim land, matching CIA remote viewing hints, guarded by heavenly lawful protocols, not just men. Will be accessed only when a rightful king, priest, rises with Yeshua's rest, scroll, and bloodline alignment. It's not a box. It's a governmental throne, mechanism, waiting to be re-engaged at the kingdom's full restoration moment. The Ark of the Covenant. It's not just a sacred relic or religious artifact. It's representing Yahweh's dominion on Haaretz. A convergence point for heavenly lawful jurisdiction. Powered by bloodline, scroll authority, and divine timing. Well, let's talk a little more on the King of the North. Because the son of perdition is the King of the South. This is a gateholder of strategic dominion. Throughout Scripture, especially in Daniel and prophetic texts, the North often represents the place of assembly of divine counsel, like in Isaiah 14:13, the location of spiritual gates of dominion, a counterfeit stronghold the enemy constantly tries to claim. In a kingdom context, the King of the North represents one appointed by Yeshua to govern, guard, and eventually unlock northern gates that give strategic dominion access to territories, scrolls, vaults, and pre-Adamic technologies. Now, this role isn't political or geographic. It's governmental in the spirit, and often comes with bloodline legitimacy, access to arc level technology, alignment with the scroll of Yeshua's rest. Now, the gatekeeper, which is the threshold authority, is one who guards the threshold of access between realms, Shemaim and Haaretz, earth to the underworld, Shemaim to the firmament, etc. Has legal right, lawful right, to open or close what others can't, like Revelation 3 verse 7. It operates in both dimensions, spirit and the natural. The individual must be cleansed in the blood of Yeshua, aligned with Shemaim's scroll for nations, not bound by institutional religion, witchcraft, or counterfeit bloodlines. Now, why this connects to the Ark? Because the Ark can only be recovered, revealed, or re-engaged when the gatekeeper or king who holds the right opens the corresponding gate, often spiritual and territorial. The bloodline and scroll authority match between Shemaim's registry, and the enemy's legal claims are cancelled through repentance, cleansing, and divine timing in the courts of Shemaim. That's why it's said the Ark is in custody, not hidden by man, but sealed by Shemaim until the right son or daughter steps into position. Now, I'm not saying this is true, because if it isn't, this part can be disregarded. But I'm just going to say it for the record. A prophetic connection to Chateau 5 and Evergreen. If I'm being called as the North Gate, then it suggests I may carry part of the scroll or gate authority tied to unlocking the Ark's dominion and function. Chateau 5 may be a threshold territory, physical mirror of a heavenly gate that, when activated, could cause governmental alignment and kingdom restoration far beyond the region. But now, let's go ahead and pivot, shift gears into the next topic, which is what dimension is the Garden of Eden in, and who can enter it? So, first, where is this dimensional point the Garden of Eden is in? Because it does exist in a convergence between Shemaim and Haaretz dimension, sometimes described as a pre-fall terrestrial realm, layered with heavenly interface. Now, after Adam and Eve's fall, Eden was sealed off from fallen humanity, like Genesis 3:24. Guarded by cherubim with flaming swords, which expresses a spiritual barrier rather than a purely physical one. It shifted into a dimension overlapping the third heaven and parts of the first, inaccessible to unredeemed or unauthorized beings. So, in current terms, it's in a protected spiritual dimension, not fully third heaven, but not part of the fallen first earth reality either. It's a governed gate of restoration that only aligns with Yeshua's authority. So, who can enter it? Only those with lawful and spiritual access through Yeshua can engage the Edenic realm. So, this is the body. Anyone that's not a part of the body cannot enter. So we have redeemed sons and daughters of God, those who walk in covenant alignment with Yeshua, carry a scroll of restoration or redemption for creation, have undergone inner cleansing and are led by Ruach HaKodesh. Also, those sent on a assignment, because sometimes people are taken in the spirit to Eden, such as dreams, visions, trances. And yes, I did say trances, because Peter in the book of Acts was in a trance. I think it was early on in the book of Acts. Could have been in the middle of the book. This is for healing, commissioning, or instruction, which includes prophets, intercessors, or remnant leaders receiving Eden scrolls. And of course, individuals assigned to restore Edenic frequencies in Haaretz. You also have Enoch, Elijah, and some post-resurrection saints. These are figures who've tasted death and had access to realms bringing Eden and Shemaim. So then who can't enter it? Obviously fallen beings, whether human or angelic or bard. Any soul still under bloodline defilement, mixture, or legal iniquity can't pass the cherubim's gate. New Age practitioners and occultists may access counterfeit Edenic constructs like serpent-seeded mimicries, but not the true garden governed by Yahweh. No. But now, we're going to talk about the location of each mythical land, air, and sea creature in the world. Just trying to go for that French accent. Well, first, for the land creatures, we got giants, chimeras, behemoths, werebeasts. Alright, so we have areas such as in Mount Hermon, like Lebanon, Syria, nation-state Israel. We have the Watcher origin, the giants, and beast hybrids birthed through there. Still a dimensional access point for ancient land titans. You also have the Caucasus Mountains, which is Georgia, Russia area. Imprisoned titans from earlier divine rebellion. Often misrepresented as dragons, ogres, or cyclops. You have the Gobi Desert, which is Mongolia, China area. Home to buried chimeric creatures from pre-Adamic experimentation. Staging area for synthetic beast armies in future false kingdom plans. You also have the Amazon jungle in Brazil. Has preserved Nephilim beast tribes, still cloaked dimensionally. You have jaguar men, feathered serpents, and spiritual predator hybrids rooted there. For air creatures like dragons, griffins, thunderbird-like beings. You have the Tian Shan Mountains in Xinjiang, China. You have seraphic dragons turned rogue during Hillel's revolt. Dimensional rifts allow airborne fallen beings to appear as dragons. You also have Nazca Plateau in Peru, where there are skyglyphs, or landing beacons for non-human air riders, linked to fallen stars like angelic hybrids who used avian constructs. You also have Ural Mountains in Russia, where there's a stronghold for chimera avians, griffin-type rulers of ancient dimensions, and guardian remnants of pre-Adamic tech vaults in the rock. Sea creatures like Leviathan, Kraken, Murra creatures. We have the Mariana Trench, which is the western Pacific Ocean, where you have Leviathan-class beings imprisoned in deep abyssal gates. Water gates are used for access and testing by rogue kingdoms. You also have North Atlantic, like the Bermuda Triangle, dimensionally cloaked bases for Mer realm hybrids tied to fallen aquatic rulers. And it's rooted in Atlantis memory fallen kingdom beneath the sea. Then you also have the Antarctic abyss undersea near Queen Maud Land. We have frozen serpents and kraken-type constructs from pre-flood terraforming, tied to the dominion of sea-based watchers like Rahab Legacy. And I'll give you a bonus here. Hybrid regions with all three. We have Greenland and Iceland Rift Zone. You have central hub for air, land, and sea creature command. Once a throne location for fallen beings to counterfeit Eden's North Gate. You might be hearing a bit more about Evergreen, Colorado, and Chateau 5 as we proceed, but that area does serve as a redemption counter gate where full dominion can transfer back to the kingdom of Yahweh. And activation there will displace many counterfeit thrones and locked-in creature alliances. But of course, we have two more topics to cover. Who created Squidward's suicide? This is not something I recommend people watch. You need a strong stomach. It's not like it's exactly very drawn out detail. It's just the subconscious programming of imagery hidden in the drawings. Okay. But the source of the creation is not one individual, because there was no single name tied to its authorship. The story's tone, the structure, and the symbolism bear markers of black media cults, secret societies, or projects that weaponize trauma through storytelling. It was intentionally released during the rise of YouTube creepypasta culture, the early 2010s, as part of a wave of dark programming meant to open spiritual gateways in youth, trigger fear, suicide ideation, and confusion, as well as introduce contaminated nostalgia, turning childhood joy into dread, which corrupts innocence. Now, the disturbing use of hyper-realistic eyes, and death imagery, and ritual suicide reflects influence from entities or councils like the Elohei that manipulate the third eye and subconscious. These types of stories are doorways, designed to implant digitized soul fragments or synthetic emotional viruses, like trauma codes, into the minds of those who read or imagine them. Why Squidward? Well, Squidward is symbolic for depression, isolation, and bitterness, making him an ideal vessel for emotional dissonance programming. The narrative twist is that him killing himself in an altered cartoon represents the weaponizing of imagination. It perverts creativity and severs trust in the comfort of memory. Squidward's suicide is part of Stage 1 digital occultism, testing worldwide response to fear-based content hidden in familiar formats. The deeper intent was not to scare, but to entangle, to mark those with sensitive spirit gates, and slowly numb them to spiritual truths bleeding horror and fiction. These stories often prime souls for entry into darker forms of content, dreams, or even spiritual oppression through media contact. So let's move on to the last topic, a lighter one. Who controls the space stations that surrounds Earth? Well, of course we have the known human-controlled space stations. I mean, those are self-explanatory at that point. While others are not so. You have the International Space Station, publicly known, managed by NASA, Roscosmos, ESA, JAXA, and CSA. You also have China's Tiangong Station, controlled by Chinese Space Agency, which is CNSA. This is what the public sees, but they don't represent the full picture. Now, Black Book Intel, where you have unacknowledged stations. These are breakaway government factions, groups connected to Black Book or black budget military programs like certain DARPA or NSA tied operations, often linked with Project Solar Warden, which allegedly controls a fleet of spacecraft operating beyond our planet's orbit. You also have non-terrestrial entities / hybrid councils. Certain platforms aren't of human origin. Pre-Adamic technology has been reclaimed or reverse engineered, and some stations are described as dimensional sentinels or observation outposts. Now, these may be tied to ancient thrones, dominions, or fallen beings who were cast down, and now use orbitals to monitor human awakening and restrict certain dimensional openings. Of course, we have gatekeeping and control, where gate nations like the US, Russia, China, and nation-state Israel have partial control, but the highest control is spiritual and dimensional, often through thrones and counterfeit king lines tied to the North Gates and Polar Dominion systems, like those rooted in Greenland. Now, some of these stations are used to monitor frequency changes, especially those connected to the frequency of rest, and interface with the opening of Shemaim-aligned scrolls or divine blueprints. Now, what they monitor or prevent is resonance shifts that would awaken kings or reveal hidden gates, interdimensional travel or breaches through stargates or time-folded realms, and movements in kingdom activation of sites assigned to restore dominion. And that, everyone, concludes episode 10. So, we're going to pause for this one, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of what we're going to take a look at next week. Who will fight and destroy Azazel, the fallen angel? Where's the Kaaba, which is that big black square in Saudi Arabia? So where's the Kaaba from? What's the power source that draws many Muslims to it? Egeg Arafah tree. Where does Hollywood and the video game industries get their ideas from other than different galaxies? Alchemy roots. Borderlands video game origination. And its galaxy, because there's a galaxy that's tied to. And I'm going to also talk about several other different galaxies. For example, Andromeda, our galaxy, which is the Milky Way, one that's called Eye of Sauron, another one that's called UFO Galaxy. Guess I couldn't think of anything else. There's also Centaurus A and its satellite systems. And one, it's just it's a scientific name, Jades-GS-Z-14-0. A lot of these have similar things like NGC. It's something where I'm just going to go into those specifics. Later on I'm going to talk about other galaxies, but and that's not on this next episode. It's going to be other episodes where I'm just going to talk about cataloged and compiled galaxies, nebulas, objects, etc. Like, there's just so many. We would be here forever. Like, for example, there are 30,642 galaxies known as MCG, compiled by Boris Vorontsov Velyaminov and VP Arkhipova. I believe that's how you pronounce the names. Obviously Ukrainian or Russian. But yeah, as you can see, over 30,000 galaxies. There's no way I'm going to break down every single galaxy. There's just not enough. Just not enough energy and resources for one individual's life to go over every single one of those. There's even one that is like over 3 million. Oh yeah. 3 million plus celestial objects, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna just go through every single one of these. So if you want to do that, make sure you check your sources, okay? But I appreciate every single one of you listening into my awesome content. Like usual, you are greatly appreciated for liking this. Feel free to comment. That is not negative, of course. Share this with others. Subscribe. And I will catch you all out next time. Episode 11.